Good afternoon, everybody. Let's do a quick rundown of Lesson 6 for those of you that were not in class, and we'll do a quick review of Lesson 7 for those of you that are planning on joining me on Friday, I guess, of this week. So for those of you that weren't in class today, we talked about the U.S. Army, and the objectives for the lesson are very, very clear and pretty direct. Number one, we need to understand what the Army does, what their primary function is, what their purpose is, contrasted with the other services. So the reading does a pretty good job unpacking the point that the Army has the unique role of really maintaining ground presence and control of a civilian population and taking and holding territory at any given time for an infinite number of weeks or days. Infinite's a wrong word, but for an undetermined, sustained period of time, weeks, days, maybe even years. Of course, that requires a very special mentality, a very special logistical support system, very specialized capabilities and training to get that mission done. The Air Force can't do it, the Navy can't do it, and we'll learn on Friday that the Marines can't do it either. And then we talked about really how the Army is arranged and how the forces are organized, if you will, to present to the Joint Force Commander or the combatant commanders when they have an issue in their AOR or area of responsibility and they need the Army to deploy. It's currently set up in such a way that they have a modular system and they call those things brigade combat teams. And over my left-hand shoulder, we've got the 3 brigade combat teams. Of course, the lightest, fastest, most nimble, if you will, is the Army Infantry Organization, the Infantry Brigade Combat Teams. Although they're light and flexible, they don't have the heavy firepower to engage or break into really challenging situations. Then secondly, we've got the Stryker Brigade Combat Teams. Those are just 8-wheeled vehicles. There's several hundred of these things in any given Stryker Brigade. And that's where the soldiers, they're infantry soldiers, but they can jump in one of these Stryker vehicles and quickly transit from battle space to battle space, assuming there's the infrastructure that can support those kind of vehicles, lightly armored vehicles. And they can get to and from relatively quickly. So they can maneuver in city streets, they can maneuver in urban locations, they can do so pretty quickly and move troops around. And last but not least, of course, we've got the Armored Brigade Combat Teams, and those are the heavy ones. I've pictured a tank on the left-hand shoulder here. They have a lot of firepower, but they take a long time to get downrange as needed. So they're less responsive, but once they get to the fight, they're mobile to some degree, given the terrain constraints, right? And in a real situation, of course, the combatant commander's probably gonna be able to pick and choose various brigade combat teams that he or she needs in his region. And each of these can be enabled by other things. You can attach helicopters, you can attach parachute guys to them in an airborne situation. You can throw civil engineering type resources if they need a plow area down in the battle space to make it more suitable for a battle, if you will, and they can provide some security forces things. So there's some enablers that can always be attached to various units of these things right here. So that's really the crux of the Army lesson. So on Friday, we're going to talk about the Marine Corps, and I'd like you to take a moment, just pause and think about the people that you know that have gone into the Marines. What kind of character do they have? What kind of attitude do they have? Think of folks from your high school that may be enlisted directly in the Marine Corps. We're going to talk a little bit about that mentality, and we're really going to talk about how the Marines are different than the Army, and how they're different from the Air Force, and how they're different from the Navy. They've got components of all of them. But they're a very unique, specialized service that accomplishes a lot of that stuff. So that's what we'll do. On Friday, again, as a reminder, we will start our combatant command briefings. So I want each group to make sure they have their combatant command represented and they're ready to go. So when we start at 7:15 or 9:15, depending on your class, we're going to say, okay, let's hit it. COCOM, UCOM, INDOPACOM. I want you guys to be prepared, stand up, give me the quick brief, and we'll run through it. For those teams in my M3 section today on Wednesday that walked out and did not decide their combatant command, make sure you do that. We were kind of distracted as we wrapped up class today, but make sure you identify a combatant command among your peers, and we'll work through it. If it doesn't work out when you guys come back to class on Tuesday of next week, we'll figure it out. But that's all we got. This is a 4.5-minute video. I hope everybody's good. Thanks for your working with me, and I appreciate your patience. We'll get through this all together, and I hope that you guys are enjoying class so far.